Okay everyone, welcome back to another video on the channel. Today we're back on GT Sport and we're back with our daily race guides. This week we're doing the daily race C at Goodwood, the new track that got launched just last week on GT Sport, and we're driving the Group 4 car. So for my track guide, I decided to use the Alfa Romeo 4C. Now I actually really like the way this car handles around this track. There's not a lot of people using this car in the top 10 stars, but there is I think two. I'm currently P5 or 6 with this lap, still in the top 10. And I think there is another car using the 4C up there as well. So it definitely has the potential. I think it can definitely get into the 1:13s. I'm going to go through the track guide with you, pointing out some of the areas where you can gain time with this car. Because it's a handling car, you really need to chuck it into these corners and carry a lot of speed through turn 1. Turn 1 is probably one of the most important corners on the track for the Alfa Romeo 4C, because if you don't nail that turn 1, you're going to lose speed all the way down that straight. So you need to maximize the ability through turn 1 so that you don't lose too much by the time you get through to the end of the long power section. So let's go through this lap, let's point out all the brake markers, let's just give you some tips on the racing line and some corners that you can really attack over the curbs, etc. So starting your lap, be very cautious obviously not to hit the wall, trying to give as much exit speed as possible from that corner. You can see it nearly went on me on the curb there. You need to be very careful of that issue on the curb as we go now into turn 1. And this is what I'm going to be talking about now. Really attacking turn 1. You're going to see we're going to hit the brakes just after the 50 board now. That 50 board is kind of your reference from when you're going to hit the brakes, but you're already turning into the corner now. And there, the brakes have just got on there. And we're only tapping the brakes. We're not aggressively hitting them. Just a nice little gentle tap. And then aggressively down into 4th gear. And we want to hit this apex here on the right hand side. Now that I know the car's onto that apex in a reasonably good shape, I can get back on that accelerator and keep that foot planted all the way down. And just keep revving out in 4th gear until you straighten the car up, and then you're getting into 5th gear now and accelerating all the way down this. And you can see why the Alfa 4C is so strong, because at that point there we were carrying about 4 or 5 miles per hour, even more than that over other cars. So you're then carrying that extra speed for a little bit longer as we now come through to the next braking zone. On that previous corner, you just got to be very gentle through there. Make sure you put a little steering angle in. It's a fairly simple flat out corner. Now this, a little bit of braking input going in there, very similar to how you do it on turn 1. And you're going to see we're going to really attack this curb on the right hand side. You can literally bounce the right hand side of your car over the curb on entry. You've probably seen me do it if you've been watching the live stream. I like to take this very aggressively over the curb, this corner. So again, in the Alfa 4C as well, over the curb, a little bit onto the grass on the right hand side, not all 4 wheels, because if you do all 4 wheels you might get a little bit unstable. And then just be very cautious here. Now you've got to get this braking done very early, using that bit of tarmac on the right hand side as your brake reference. You see there, just a little bit of brake going in at this point now, and we're going to swing that car back in 4th gear and try and hug it to the apex now. And again, you can be aggressive on this curb as well in the majority of cars that I've tried. Even the 4C, you see there, sticking to the curb and then back on that throttle very early to carry the speed all the way out of the corner and then into the next braking zone. This is a very tricky corner to get the braking zone. You see, I use this little bit of white tarmac and then that little white blob of tarmac as my braking reference. You see there, just as we come into the braking zone, you can actually see where I've circled around that circle, around the braking inputs, is the white mark. So you're pretty much dead on that white zone as we now come into this very tricky corner. You need to try and get as close to the curb as possible. And you can actually get over the curb, but then you've got to get on the throttle really early and be very cautious that the understeer doesn't kick you out onto that curb on the left hand side, and that can easily spin you out on your lap. So just be cautious of that, but you do need to push to get the most out of this lap on that corner so that you carry the speed up this hill. Again, because the 4C is quite weak in straight line, you need to get the speed out of that corner. And then we come into another quite a tricky corner, this long double right hand corner. It's kind of a double apex. You'll see braking just before the 50 board on the left hand side, just a little bit of braking input and then trail braking down, staying in 4th gear and just trying to get as close as possible to that first part of the apex there where the arrow is with your right hand tyre, and then going back to the middle of the track and then swinging it into the second part of the apex. And again, I stay in 4th gear with the Alfa Romeo. Some other cars will be down into 3rd gear, and then use all the track width from the left hand side. You see they're using all the curb. Just be cautious not to use too much and spin the car. Now a little dab of the brakes there going into this corner. There's no real brake reference. I just pretty much make sure that I brake nice and early down into 3rd gear, skim the wall on the right hand side. And again, trying to get as close on the second part. You'll see there you've pretty much got a straight line that as much as possible early on the throttle, and then use some of the track width on the outside, accelerating over the line and over the line for 1:14. That last chicane, it's easy to see why people are calling that the new chicane of death. it is extremely dangerous, and you have to be very aggressive to get the most out of your lap through there. So let's have a little watch of that lap from the chase camera, and then I'll let you watch the onboard gameplay camera at full speed without me talking over. So you see again through turn 1 very aggressively on the throttle very early, and that's where we gain the speed all the way down the straight. And now why this car is so strong is because some of the other cars that are fast down the straight are only hitting about this speed at this point anyway. So because it's carried that much more speed through the corner, you're not actually losing too much on the straights. And again, over you see how much we take over that curb, and again onto the curb there. You really can't be aggressive on this track, and it does pay off when you hook the lap up by being really ultra aggressive. And again, using the full width on entry into that corner, you could see how close it was to the grass, to spinning out. But you've got to do that kind of thing to get the most out of the Alpha 4C. You've got to be very confident at using the full track width and really using the ability through the corners, because like I say, this car is where it gains its time, is all through the corners. Like I say, this final right hand corner, very important. This long right sweeping corner, you'll see there, to get on the power very early on the second part, and then just watch how close I get to the chicane, skimming the entry on both parts of the chicane. That was very brave, and we got away with that, and then over the line for a 1 minute 14.0, which is still in the top 10 stars. So quite happy with the lap. Now I'll let you watch the lap at full speed without me commentating over. Please let me know in the comment section if you enjoyed the lap and if it's helped you out, and I'll be back with more of these track guides and live streams very soon. Thanks again for watching, everyone.